Hey, welcome to another show, Clearing the Mist with Ken Hamilton. Hey, listen, I've taken a lot of inputs from a lot of things, and the show that we're going to have is going to be something of a summation with a special guest. Now, this is, of course, Monday, so it's Clearing the Mist with me, Ken Hamilton. On Tuesday is Vibing with Vicki Weidman. On Wednesdays is Faith Matters with Dr. Nasser Khan. And on Thursdays, Mind Your Business with Naz. And the show today may as well have been a business show on a Thursday show with Naz himself because we're going to be talking about business. Naz has a particular interest in black business. I'm hearing the echo, Naz, coming back across. Yeah, from there you go. I'm hearing myself. Okay. Nope, not quite. Got to kill it down a little bit more. All right. Okay, and so Naz has an interest in business because he has the business center here. As a matter of fact, his Naz 716 studio. You can find him on Facebook. We're about to begin. I'm going to have a special guest. It's going to be Demetrius Nix. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This man is really, really, really dynamic. He's as far out as Saturn. But what leader isn't? You know, he's not the run of the mill. In fact, I have on one of his shirts that says WAWG, which means we all we got. Now, I have a little bit different spin on that. I believe that we're all that we need in order to restart the things that we have lost in the past. So, you know, if you have comments or you have questions on Facebook, some of the things I'm going to say might be a bit controversial because, hey, that's the way that I am. If you knew what I knew and went through what I went through, then you would understand that it's not as far-fetched as you might think that it is. So this is what we want you to do, is if you have a question, you have a comment. We're going to be talking about Black Wall Street, Niagara Falls, New York. It's a project that my guest is sponsoring. I mean, literally sponsoring. I'm going to give you some background on Black Wall Street. In case you didn't remember, in 1921, there was a great deal of prosperity in segregated communities where African Americans shopped, bought from themselves in our own communities, sold to ourselves, and we had the economic throughput of about 7 spins on a dollar before it left the community, left the business community. And as a result of that, there was a great deal of prosperity. Many people say that one of the worst things that possibly ever happened to us as African Americans was integration. Well, I've spoken on this in the past. Brown versus the Board of Education got it right, but allowed it to be executed wrongly. Well, here's my guest now. You're doing great. How about yourself?
Great.
And so what had happened is that the people on, well, you're plugging in now. You're going to have to turn the little button on the side of this one. They're in the middle here. The green light will come on. Did it come on?
It's good.
Okay, very good. And so as I was saying, that there was a great deal of prosperity. It was because we were segregated within our own community. We purchased from each other, we sold through each other, we sold to each other, and we profited by a money circulation going through the community. That is how economies work. Unfortunately, with integration, and when you talk about the Board of Education decision in 1956, the Supreme Court looked at the various situations throughout the country as though they were all the same situations, and they were not. In the case of Brown versus the Board of Education, Mr. Brown and his daughter Linda was the subject of it and went to the Supreme Court because he was the father figure, and he was, of all of the cases around the country that Thurgood Marshall wanted to carry to the Supreme Court, he was the only male that was leading the charge for his daughter, who played with white kids all summer long, but when the school bell rang, the white kids walked 3 or 4 blocks to school. Linda had to walk through the rail yard to go to catch a bus to go a mile past where the white school was, and that's not what it was supposed to have all been about. But that's the aberration of what happened. From then, people began to do exactly that. They started to go outside of their communities in order to do virtually everything. And with the 1964 Civil Rights Act and 1965 Voters' Rights Act, pretty soon the economies, black economies, began to fail as a result of now we're shopping outside of our own community. There's no money circulation throughout the community. And so, according to Black Enterprises, in a magazine article back in the early 90s, they cited that in the Jewish community, there was a 7-time throughput. In the Hispanic communities of Miami, it was up to 14 times. In other words, when $1 left the hand of a white person and went to a Hispanic, to a Cuban, it touched 14 other cubic hands before it touched another white hand. Well, one of the things that had happened here in Niagara Falls, we learned to live with that. We were forced into a neighborhood years ago, not by our choosing, and then we began to shop outside of that community. Well, there was a fella, his name was Demetrius Nix, and he is my guest. Demetrius Nix was an interesting person, and specifically how we met. I did a newspaper column on that when he was 14 years old, he shot and he killed somebody, another kid. And it was so close to what happened to my son down in Virginia Beach that he was 14 years old when he was shot and killed, along with literally a friend of mine who happened to be the chief of naval operations, who at the same time that I wrote the article about Demetrius and Curtis was that he had committed suicide. And so I had all of these three things around me that formed a triangle of sorts. Well, I can't go back to the chief of naval operations who used to be the captain of my ship, the USS Farragut, nor can I go back to my son. So what had happened is that I had done the Legends Park basketball court. And Demetrius showed up one day, and he approached me in a way that was just so strange for kids of his age to approach me. He was nice. He had a problem with something I had written, the way I'd written it, because I didn't interview, well, actually it was his mother who had a problem that conveyed it to him. And he told me about his mother saying that I did not interview her on it. Well, there was nothing to be interviewed on it. It was just putting these three cases together. And he was so nice. Demetrius was so nice and so courteous. Man, it was like, here's my new son.
Well, see, to me, it's always been, if it's the newspaper, whatever media, whatever is programming us, it was never the writer. That, even though the article, when I went back and read it, remember, we pulled it back up, we ended up reading it. It wasn't that the article, I was so used to the papers getting the wrong facts and portraying me wrong.
Right.
My mama got mad because, at the time, I'm a 14-year-old young man.
Yeah.
I'm a 14-year-old kid. I was a kid.
Right.
I still had a young mind. My mama looked at it as a black man is doing what everybody else been doing. That's why she took personal fault that at the time I didn't understand. To me, it was the whole paper just attacked me. I mean, every single day to 9/11.
Well, I can't see anything in there where I attacked you. I just reported what had happened. Yeah.
I didn't read it. I heard. I had to come home and pull it up. Once my mama said she don't like sun, it's bad. It's
now,
bad.
where were you when that article came out?
I was locked up. So I was somewhere in juvenile, somewhere in one of their places.
And the papers get around it there. I have a lot. I mean, say Trent Hamilton at your school.
But see, at the time when I got arrested too, I couldn't read and write. So
right, and see,
so my problems
that's even more phenomenal.
My problems was the paper, which I know the paper is written at a 6th grade level, so where people could understand it, I still couldn't understand it at that early stage in me being locked up. And I understood. A teacher told me, he said, if you made it to 7th grade, you can't read, you can't write, and you never failed a grade. He said you should sue your mama and the Board of Education.
Yeah.
He said, everybody failed you. And I sat back and I realized 18 months later, I had my GED. I was able to read. I had to teach myself, but I realized
you read
it was
you read a lot in prison.
Yeah, I could read.
Yeah.
Still can't spell.
I know.
But I can read. You know what I mean? I'm going to write a paragraph and it's going to be a lot of messed up words. You got to learn how to read between the lines.
Your writing is atrocious, man.
But you know what else I realized? It's like Ray Charles. By me being limited, Muhammad Ali once said, he said that he felt the Lord gave him Parkinson's to show him that he was the king and he wasn't. You know, he was so macho. And I realized me at that time, most of my life not being able to read and write and being crippled in a sense of what most people think ahead is one of the key elements in prison that taught me how to work together with people. I need people.
That's
I
right,
need to trust somebody to write this down and know that they wrote what actually they wrote.
Yeah, that's right. I never realized. I've been to jail one night in jail.
So yeah, prison.
And they didn't even book me under my real name,
help,
so
but it
I don't
needs to
have
be
any
changed.
street cred.
Our school system needs to be changed.
Absolutely.
When you talk about it needs to be changed. Now it doesn't matter if you black, you white, you yellow, no matter what you is. The public school systems is failing us. It's not the enthusiasm with our teachers inside the system. However it's working, it's all need change. It's the same problems I realize across the board.
And so now on those changes, one of the things when you came back, you looked at Niagara Falls a little differently than everybody who'd been planted in the pot.
Because when
thought this is the way it has to grow.
Yeah, when I left, there was a house next to a house, next to a house, next to a house, and you know back then in the old, 90s, 2000, we barely left our sides of town.
Yeah.
So on the east side, it was a whole community. I come back 9 years later.
The east side is the downtown Niagara Falls area.
Yeah, we're by the casino.
Right.
When we go there now, when I came home, everything was gone.
Yeah.
So when I left, it was a whole community. It was crime. It was all this stuff that I was coming home to change. And when I came home, because I came home with this plan to change, there was nothing to change.
Now, one of the things and the reason that you're here is because we started off talking about Black Wall Street in 1921 and the prosperity that was there because of the businesses that were there, because we supported ourselves. I have on one of your shirts, you have on the later model, but it says WAWG. Tell the audience what that means to you.
It means we all we got. So when I was like, I've been working on the We All We Got name, came about 18 months ago. I was looking for a name for this movement that I have been spending 10 to 12 years already creating. It's a lot of people aborted, but it was nothing to, people like a name, a title, a face, or something that they needed. So I wanted to come up with a name. But first, I always want people to know that We All We Got is nothing but a name. If we drop the name and we call it We Got Us, if we call it the sky, it don't matter what it is. It's the theory, just like the Black Wall Street. The Black Wall Street isn't that I'm building is not a Black Wall Street like what they did in Atlanta, where they mimicked the original one and they set it up like more of like a museum kind of.
Right.
Mine's is actually going to be in theory of black businesses taking over a section and striving together.
And let's talk about how you're doing that. One of the things that he did is that if any of you know, and many of you out there know Art Ray, and where Art Ray did his taxes, that was built as the city corporation yard when it was first built, and this was back in the 1920s when they used to burn garbage there. In fact, all of the soil around the west end of that Hope Six Center Court project is built in that dump where the incinerator went. So now, after that closed down because they had put the one on New Road, where that crosses over where Sam's Club used to be, they closed down that corporation yard and it was purchased by Art Ray. And Art Ray used it for his tax business. Now, somehow you got it. You can talk about it if you want or not, but it's not that.
Yeah, it was a crazy situation. I just opened the entrepreneur school of thought not too long earlier. It was the rest of my little money I had saved up. So, I was just pushing my business. I do contracting, I do blacktop, I do all that. So I'm just
you do
pushing.
A lot of things, man.
I do a lot of stuff. Got to slide that out there. I got dumpster cans too, $600.
Well, yeah, we got a picture of one of them.
Yeah. So when I started, I'm doing this and I'm pushing and I'm just trying to help people like I do. I don't go to the government. I don't believe in no help. I believe do what you can. Yeah, do the best you absolutely can. So when I started pushing this school, the entrepreneur school, thought to help people open businesses, this family contacted me that knew my family, and they said, "You the strongest black leader we've seen in 50 years." They said, our father would not want this to go to nobody else but somebody in our community, and you the only person we feel that'll do it. I just did my grandma's house that was a 9-bedroom, so they basically just gave it to me.
Yeah, and that's great.
And then the plan
Art Ray was one of my mentors, and I liked Art. I called him Uncle Art a lot because I had a very close relationship with him. and we both were about the same height, same width, same, and able to talk continuously. You can talk more continuously than I can,
Nah, I
Demetrius.
doubt it.
Yeah, you
I'm a
can.
2 minute hot seat. You get about 2, 3 minutes with me, and then I'm ready to. You see, I was a little late, but
Did
I
you
know.
did you put up they're where I'm at the school, and listen, let me tell you, this is one of the things that Demetrius did first, and significant thing is as other African Americans were closing down community centers, Demetrius decided to start a school of entrepreneurial thought. Now it's started off as a school. It's functioning more as a community center now than as a school, but we got to get that back to where it needs to be sufficiently both of those
It
things
got
to
to be
attract
both. It's
people in.
more. My concept was we always, and when I watched politics throughout ages when I was in jail and I studied a little bit about politics, I realized that they always offered us community centers and things that they thought we could play with sports and this, that, and the
Yeah, I
third.
know.
And I realized that the community was destroyed. So you don't need a community center if you got to destroy community. Now, I see the Muslims opening up their own community center without no financing. I started watching what they doing and I started saying that's the way we got to backtrack it. So first I wanted to open up a family center. And the family center derived around entrepreneur. Really, I put the entrepreneur there just because entrepreneur and money draws people. Really, I care more about getting people the skills and helping people get ahead and really trying to lift what's inside of us more than what's outside. Even the Black Wall Street, it's an opportunity that if I could get 40 businesses in one location, the power of us linked together.
And let's take a look at the monitor where that one location is. Now this is on the corner of Seneca at Hyde Park.
In Hyde Park.
Now the buildings do need some help. This is
Yeah.
an older picture, but it's a great picture, and it shows the layout. It's right across the street from the VFW.
Yeah, VFW.
Right, and so, a lot of parties go on there. People are going to be familiar with it. It's kind of like a town center in itself.
Painting it all orange.
Yeah,
Everything's gonna be
you're
orange.
painting it orange. We'll get to that in a minute. Hold that up there for a minute. So, in all of these buildings, what you plan on doing with those inside of the buildings?
Okay, so the main building, the one that, if you knew he did taxes in, it's the one that's white and it sits a little back. You see right next to that white RV. That's the office building.
Right, the building, the standalone building that's on if you're
Yeah.
going up Hyde Park, going across Hyde Park heading toward Niagara University, this is the one that is closest to the street as you see it. That's Hyde Park that you see on the right.
So that one is gonna have 14 offices in it.
All
But I have a couple offices available now, but we're trying to find an accountant and a business lawyer because there's no way to create a business district and not have a business lawyer and not have an accountant to make sure that we don't, get trapped off.
Okay, if anybody's listening, what is your phone number? How can they contact you?
716-370-5664. 716-370-5664. Then what I plan on doing in the big warehouses, instead of me just renting a warehouse to something and I get to rent 1, 2, 3, the big one is split up into 3 sections, so I'll be able to rent 5 warehouses. Instead of doing it that way, I'm gonna build sections to suit. And even though it's gonna be a Black Wall Street and it's supposed to be 40 businesses, I have to make sure that these businesses
Are somewhat compatible?
compatible and locked together. So we're staying around the jobs, whatever gets the most jobs, housing, and into that, us buying houses, us, fixing houses, so it's construction businesses, telemarket, because they bring
Yeah,
jobs.
you could do modular house building and
And then, like, say I got a lot of land too, so say you got a landscaping business, you could have your equipment stored on my land, and I would secure everything, I would assure everything. And so what I'm gonna do with the big warehouses, I'm gonna build it to suit. So like each warehouse, I could have 10 areas in it, 10 bays for everybody to rent. And then you rent your bay, you get your section. And once you join the Orange Empire, you get connections to everything in it.
Okay, I'm
So
going to ask you about that orange already. I know, I told you the story about my orange shoelaces, but you went way further than orange shoelaces. You went to orange what?
No more orange jumpsuits.
Yeah.
So, in prison, they put us in these orange jumpsuits so we stand out and you could see us. If anything happens, you could see us. And it programmed us that this orange was associated with prison. If they do a prison, even though you don't wear orange no more in prison, you wear greens in prison here now.
Really?
You wear state greens, not orange. But the mine in orange was always prison. So I wanted to let us know that we need to stop the from school to prison pipeline. No more orange jumpsuits. So now orange to me and to our movement stands for hope, motivation, and unity. First, you give the people hope that they could be better. Then you motivate them on how, and then you unite them together, and they're going to pull it off. Right now, and that's the 3 stages of when my movement go national: hope, motivation, and unity. The first step is hope. Niagara Falls is past hope. We done gave the people hope, and it's a lot of people that's motivated that's actually opening businesses. Now
There's a lot of that happening.
we at the last stage, unity. That's the hardest part, is to unify us together now. We got hope. We motivated. We believe that we could open businesses and be better. We believe that we could take care of our family with
Well, how many businesses do you have?
about 7 or 8.
And what are they?
I do property management. I do construction. I do blacktop. I do blowing insulation. I do dumpsters. I'm creating the Black Wall Street. I cut grass.
Yeah, the dumpster. We have a picture of you with the dumpster. And be drawing that up in a second. But I mean, you are one of the most dynamic. No, I was about to say young people. You're one of the most dynamic.
You know,
people
I
that we
actually
have in the city
started
of
my
Niagara Falls.
company with the guy I was getting dumpsters from when I was fixing up my houses. The guy I was getting dumpsters from, I didn't know I started right when he started. So he 3-4 years in, he done got ahead. He gave me his old truck for $12,000, and he gave me 2 cans. From that, I turned it into a newer truck and 20 cans within
20
3
cans
years.
now?
I got 20 cans now. And I don't leave Niagara Falls. That's why if you look around Niagara Falls, it seems like so much orange, because my thing is I'm building my city. I don't send my cans to Buffalo. I don't do jobs in Buffalo really much. I don't do jobs outside of Niagara Falls. I try and keep my jobs as much as I can local, so where I know I can't save the world. You got to save one piece at a time.
Now, you say, go through those businesses that you have again. You have property management, construction, which is you're doing. You buy houses and you
fix them.
Fix them
I
up.
do other people's houses too. So I do. I now I'm subcontracting. So now I'm the man that you come to me, you give me your house, I get it fixed for you, I give you the price, and I go out and get the people to finish it. And
you're doing something like that on 16th Street or something. There was a fire burned out.
Yep, a fire burnout that we just putting that back together.
And I saw you in one Facebook picture where you were actually raking blacktop.
Yeah, so how I got into blacktop was, there was another situation, an older guy from our community that is phasing out. He can't do the job no more. He don't got the workers. So I went to him and said, yo, I could get us the young men and workers. You got the skills. Let's take your old machinery, fix it back up, and let's run the business. And that's, we linked together and we put a workforce
Well, there's
together.
no question in my mind that you're able to get and motivate young people to be better, more so than most anybody else.
And then when I was in prison, I sat around all older people, so that's the people I relate to more. So I could take an older person, relate their mind to the younger generation, where there's a gap that's happening in our community between the elders and the youngers. The elders wanted their way, the youngers wanted their way, and nobody could see the middle.
Well, I just want to get out of both ways, but you won't let me. But
We can't get out yet. We gotta bring change on a new multitude of level. Right now, we got the people motivated, but if we don't take that motivation, even at the school, if people don't come in and help us create more programs and push it forward, we're gonna fail. Because my school, the whole idea of everything I do, it derives on who? Us.
We've got
people.
somebody from Niagara University working for you now.
I mean, we got a lot of people, but we need more.
Yeah.
If we get 10 more people, we need 20. When we get 20, we need 30. We got to keep growing.
And one of the your best people in the news is Joe Jenko.
Joe Jenko,
Yeah, who just loves you.
Yeah, we got actually a growing support, and it's growing.
Yeah.
You know, when it's in your head, you never think it go fast enough. There's always something going wrong. But I don't watch this movement. You know, when I was building my grandma house, and I started in my grandma basement. And
we only got about 3 minutes. I want to jam-pack everything we can in these next 3 minutes. Tommy Lizardo, former city administrator, is a big fan of yours. You have big fans outside of the city. Really quickly, what happened in Atlanta?
Oh, I went to jail for Tyler Perry, trying to get Tyler Perry attention. And then Master P, I actually got his attention, and he actually sat down, had a sit down with me. I mean, I ain't never hear a call back. but I kept pushing as if it only been 4 months, but I kept pushing as if he never comes.
And you have Birmingham. You were down in Birmingham, Alabama, right?
Yeah, Birmingham, Alabama. I took the movement down there. I'm trying to bring awareness to bring help back home, more eyes back home, and more help back home, and at the same time to show that the plan that we forming here could work in any city across America.
So now, in the next 2 minutes, tell me your dream. Say your dream in such a way that everybody else could see, what's your dream?
Simple. My dream is to end what Malcolm X and Martin Luther King died for.
And that was?
Equal rights for all of us, but I think it's like Malcolm X said, when they open up their doors, we're gonna shut down ours. So I'm taking that motive of opening back up ours and ending the civil rights movement. We no longer got a civil rights movement. It's time for us to end the civil rights movement, to fight our own and uplift our own. And I think that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to see us as a united force, pushing together and having our own Fortune 500 companies and sitting at the top of a throne that we helped build.
And at the time that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were around, 75% of African American homes had fathers in the home. One of the big things that you've always talked about is to rebuild the family as you're trying to rebuild the city.
If you reconnect the family, you take care of all of our problems. That's why it's a family center. That's why it's all about getting the man back, making the money, getting the women back, and putting the home back together. If we put the home back together, we solve all of our problems.
We solve almost every one of our problems. This has been Demetrius Nix. And he's got the Entrepreneur School of Thought on 19th Street. He's got the corner of Seneca and Hyde Park, where he's doing some developing. And how old are you?
35.
35 years old. I wasn't doing that when I was 35. I was trying to get basketball courses. And I can't even play basketball. When it comes to basketball, the closest I get to it is I'm brown, I'm round, and I bounce when I walk.
Just find any orange truck or any orange building and you'll find me.
Hey, listen. I'm going to give you the rundown again. Join us. This is, of course, Monday, Ken Hamilton with Clearing the Mist. Vicki Weidman is going to be on Tuesdays with Vibing with Vicki Weidman. Faith Matters with Dr. Nasser Khan on Wednesdays, and Mind Your Business with Naz on Thursdays. If you have any questions, hey, try to get into contact with us. We're looking for you to be a participant in these shows. And so that it's a two-way thing. It's not Kenny's show, it's your show, and I'm just trying to moderate it for you. And so we want to thank Demetrius Nix again. Keep an eye on this guy because he's going places and he's taking a lot of people with him. Thank you for being on the show, Demetrius.
Thank you.